This is ACC Nation with Will Ogenin and Jim Quist, featuring ACC sports news and interviews. Available on streaming radio, podcast, and YouTube. Welcome to ACC Nation. That's Will Ogenin. And I'm Jim Quist. It's good to be here with you, and I hope that you had a pleasant Memorial Day weekend. I know that you, Will, went off on a journey to, of all places, Fargo. And there's something that there's an allure to Fargo for you. You have gone, this is more than your first trip. This is second, maybe third trip that you've taken to Fargo.
Second. We went last year for the first time, and for people to know, I live in the Twin Cities, so it's from where I live to Fargo's about a 3.5 hour drive, and we'd never been there before. My wife and I just decided, hey, last year we decided we wanted to go. We really didn't fit much into a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so we decided we'd come back again, and did it for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we had a great time. We spent most of the day driving up, taking our time, stopped off at a couple of breweries in central Minnesota, northwest Minnesota, heading into Fargo. Obviously checked out some breweries in and around Fargo. You can't really see it, but one of the the shirt I'm wearing is from a brewery that is a really low key, a gem of a brewery and right outside of Fargo called Icewind Brewing. So shouts to them. They had some fantastic beer. We were actually there on Friday. They had their third anniversary on that weekend. So we were able to go, and we got some history in. We went to a museum that's in the western part of Fargo that we had a lot of cool exhibits just talking about, the farming in North Dakota, and it also had some cool original cars from the early 1900s on display too. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. That's the thing. America has got so much to offer. And right off the top of your head, you would probably not even consider Fargo as a destination, but obviously it is. It's more than wood chippers.
Yeah, if you I said if you've seen the movie, you get it. But yeah, they have the original one in the visitor center right there in Fargo. Is actually just a couple blocks from our hotel.
Nice picture you sent along to
it. Yeah.
Oh my. Let's talk some sports here. The Atlantic Coast Conference is still rolling and pretty active with a lot of stuff with spring sports still alive in baseball. So let's take a look at what's going on at NCAA, the baseball championship. We have pretty much almost all the way through the regionals. We have basically one contest that's left here, and that's Duke and Coastal Carolina. They both have one loss each. Basically, whoever comes out of that moves on to the Super Regionals. But first and foremost, our first Super Regional, Wake Forest, the number 1 seed, takes on number 16, Alabama. Wake Forest is still absolutely on a tear. Can that last, Will?
Jeez, man. With the way they hit in that regional, it's going to be hard. Everybody's going to be hard pressed to top them. I mean, they opened up beating George Mason 12-0, and then turned around the next day, beat Maryland 21-6, and then won the final game 15-1. I think that 21-6 game, that game ended at something like 1 a.m. because there were rain delays, and it was just a mess down there in Winston-Salem weather-wise. But they just crushed the baseball all weekend, and Alabama's gonna definitely have their hands full in ACC versus SEC. It's ACC's time to step up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fun. It should be a fun game, or games actually, since they play several times. But this is that's the premier one. And as I mentioned, Duke and Coastal Carolina are playing as we speak. It may actually go into a doubleheader to come up with the final solution here as to who moves on.
I'll just tell you right now, Duke is up 8-0 in the bottom of the 6th. So barring a miracle, they're going to advance.
All right. Here's the bad part about this. they are going to, let's say that it continues this way. They are going to advance to play number 7 seed Virginia. So it's two ACC teams going up against each other. So, you know, we had all these ACC teams in here, and eventually, you kind of you don't like to see other ACC teams eliminate each other in this process, but it happens. In this particular case, it's going to happen. Whether it's Virginia or Duke, we'll find out. The teams that have been eliminated so far: Boston College, which had a spectacular season there at a really good end run. Miami, which surprised me that they were eliminated, kind of stumbled there at the end, as did Clemson. Clemson eliminated. NC State out, and UNC also choked up on the back there a little bit and eliminated. I thought for sure UNC was going to go ahead. I was watching. Let's see. I watched the end of the UNC and Clemson game, and I couldn't believe nothing was going the way of either team, and it just was like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, that game against Tennessee that went 14 innings, that was just wow, what a game. I mean, you could understand, losing a game like that and then come back the next day to have to regroup after that and play, a fresh team, a Charlotte, and they just they did not look very good, and obviously ended up getting eliminated, losing to Charlotte 3-2 in the eliminator game. But Tennessee went on and crushed Charlotte 9-2 to ultimately move on. But yeah, I was very disappointing because Clemson just struggled to hit throughout their regional. And North Carolina, say they couldn't get past Iowa. They had to play them twice, lost 5-4 and 6-5, couple one-run games that easily could have gone their way, but just when they needed something clutch, they just couldn't do it.
Yep. Sometimes it rolls that way. You will see. Yeah, I mean, they were competitive. All these teams were very competitive. I mean, they wouldn't have been in NCAA tournament if they hadn't been, but they were very competitive, and it's just you hate to see it kind of go out the way it went, but say la vie, great teams there. Yeah. All those teams, they've had a great season so far. So we'll see remaining teams what they do. Yeah.
But we're burying the lead here. The best news of this regional round, Vandy's gone.
I know.
Bye, Whistler.
I knew that was going to be, right there, the main course on your plate when we got into this conversation.
Yeah.
Every time I looked at it, when the first time I saw it on screen, because I wasn't watching that game, and I was like, really? Oh, yeah. All right. So you're right. The Whistler, gone.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. I would say I didn't get to see much of the games because I was in North Dakota over the weekend, but just finding out they lost, that was just the best news I could have gotten out from the regionals. You don't have to worry about him anymore this season, at least.
Well, there's aren't there two guys who do that?
I know there's one for sure, and he's like branded himself, because I know I've seen pictures of him in his truck and whatnot. And there may be another person, but most importantly, they're silenced.
Yes. Silence of the lambs. All right. Let's move on to softball. We're in the WCWS softball arena now, and we're talking about this is some serious action here. Florida State has made it all the way to a position where they can be in the championship. So this is fun. Even if you're not into softball, and the action has been unreal. Not only ACC teams, but everybody I've been watching. I was watching some action the other night, and I was just like, I was mesmerized. The pitching, the hitting, the fielding, everything just seems at a higher level this year than it has been in quite a while. It was just staggering. Uh, I don't know. It was cool to watch. I
Mhm.
haven't seen much softball this season, but it was fun. A lot of fun. So
Yeah, the only thing, Oklahoma is inevitable. That's been the theme from the softball tournament so far.
oh yeah. And they're killer. they're
Yep. Won
just
today a pretty good game against Stanford. They won 4-2 to advance to the championship game.
So it's number 3, Florida State, taking on number 4, Tennessee, and if necessary, a second game,
Mhm.
which would be also going on while we're talking. So,
Yep.
and then, as I said, the winner faces Oklahoma for the championship.
Yep.
So,
And as we're
is
speaking,
that?
Florida State leads 2-1. So if they can hold on, they will move on to the championship, and that will make for some great watching.
Yeah, very cool. And best of luck. Hope they do. Hey, some other sports going on that we want to mention. The NCAA Men's Golf Championship. Unfortunately, Georgia Tech fell to Florida there, but Georgia Tech had a nice run. Ended up competing for the championship. Came up short. Men's Lacrosse Championship. This is an interesting one. Here's another ACC versus ACC. Notre Dame defeated Duke. And in the women's lacrosse championship, Boston College fell to Northwestern. So we had a lot of people in the championships, some coming up good and some coming up bad, but having a spectacular season getting that far. The men's and women's outdoor track and field championship for the NCAA is June 7th through 10th. Now, normally, well, the last couple of years at least, it's been in the Pacific Northwest, and the weather is usually just sort of perfect for outdoor track and field action. This year, it's in Austin, Texas, and it has been just a tad on the warm side, so it's going to have an impact on the competitors. It's 120 people out of the ACC are going to the championship. So we'll see how many people come out of that with some sort of championship title, gold medal performance. So looking forward to that. That should be fun. I like track and field for a variety of reasons. Hey, the College Football Hall of Fame 24 candidates have been announced. They were announced today, which is a Monday, and we have the story and the link to the people who are on that list. And there's a pretty extensive list. Some interesting people on there coming out of the ACC. Now, I just want to make a point here. Some of these players, these teams were not in the ACC at the time. However, they are now. So we're just recognizing the teams here as much as the players. But like the coaching candidates, Larry Coker, Miami. Miami wasn't, I don't think, no, Coker was not coaching Miami in the ACC. Ralph Friedgen at Maryland was in the ACC at the time. He was a 2-time ACC Coach of the Year, and he has those two guys are coaching candidates. Some of the players that are on that list include Matt Cavanaugh, quarterback out of Pitt, Ken Dorsey, quarterback out of Miami, Warwick Dunn, a running back out of Florida State, Larry Fitzgerald, a wide receiver out of Pitt. Let's see here. Herman Moore, a wide receiver out of UVA, Julius Peppers, a defensive end out of UNC, Michael Vick, a quarterback out of Virginia Tech. And there's quite a few others on there as well. So check out that list. It's at accnation.net, and the entire list is there. You can take a look and see some of the folks who are candidates for the College Football Hall of Fame for 2024. And the neat thing about that is that there's also an opportunity for you as an individual, if you're interested in doing this, in potentially voting for some of these people. So that's a good reason to take a look. So the ACC has released their television schedule, at least the preliminary one. I would say this is pretty much the schedule unless things change throughout the season and something dramatic happens where a team comes out of nowhere. So some of the games here that are listed, which caught my eye on Friday, September 1st. That's Labor Day weekend. Louisville and Georgia Tech at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. That's going to be on ESPN. So I think that that could be an interesting matchup, considering the changes in coaching with both teams.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people are seeing Louisville as a potential sleeper team this year just because of their schedule. But you're also, first, new coach, new quarterback, new system.
Mm-hmm.
This, if you're going to get a team, this is when you get them. And Georgia Tech has a little more. I mean, Brent Key coached them, towards the end of the season, and obviously got the head job. So he knows what he's doing. There is some turnover. They're going to have a new, pretty much a new quarterback, and some pretty, different change in philosophy there. Be very curious to see how they go this season, because we obviously knew it didn't work out with the previous regime.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I'd say that
Yeah,
things went pretty well there toward the end of the season.
you could actually tell the players cared.
Yeah, it really was like day and night. It's kind of sad, but I mean that's the reality of it. This game I think has potential. And mainly because I don't know, and everything I've seen written up about Virginia so far has them at the bottom of the ACC. I'm not totally buying that. I realize that there's been a loss of some personnel, and I'm not really sure what's happening there. We're going to find out. We've got, just as a reminder to everybody, we've got the ACC Nation football previews starting up here in just a couple of weeks. Let's see here, the 19th. That's when they start, and they're going to come fast and furious for just through all the way up until the kickoff. We're going to have just multiple football previews every week. We also will have guests like Pick Six previews coming on in front of all this to talk about their thoughts on what's going on with the ACC and where they think that teams will end up. A lot of other special guests that we're throwing in there this season. It's going to be a mishmash of folks from different walks of life there to give us their thoughts on what they think is going to happen in ACC football. So
yeah, really looking forward to that. We're not far off from start of football season, just a couple of months, and we're going to be going through 14 different teams to get the people who cover the teams who know far more than us, a look at what to expect this season. And you talked about that opening game. Yeah, it's going to be a very emotional game. Obviously, we all know where we last left Virginia last season. With what happened at the end of the season, it's it's going to be a tall order to get to upset a potentially top 10 Tennessee team, but they are also starting a new quarterback who, from everything I heard, has a fastball that probably reminds me of Joan Duran here, the Twins, who can throw it up to near 105 miles an hour. But this is a very talented Tennessee team. Virginia obviously have a new quarterback themselves, a lot of turnover on both sides of the ball. And obviously, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of emotion going to be coming into that game. So we'll see what they have in store for this season.
So that game is going to be in Nashville. It'll be on ABC TV. So that's something that's a nooner too, which won't be an excuse for people to miss that one. Another game on that same day, that's on Saturday, September 2nd, North Carolina and South Carolina in Charlotte. That's on ABC. So that's going to be a really good weekend of football, because on Sunday, September 3rd, then we've got LSU and Florida State in Orlando. That's also on ABC.
That should be
And
fun. Rematch
oh,
of last season, and we all remember how that ended with the missed PAT that gave FSU the win.
I think that both of those teams are significantly better than last year. They're seasoned, and
Mhm.
this may be a real shootout. So,
Yep. Some people have LSU as an early playoff well, both teams as dark horse playoff contenders. We saw how FSU finished the season when on a big winning streak, and kind of got their act together towards the end of the season, carried that momentum into the bowl, and a lot of hype for the spring.
so here's a game that I think should not be overlooked. When you immediately see it on paper or you mention it, people kind of roll their eyes and go, well, and part of that is um, history, and I get it, but I'm telling you, you may not want to look past this game this season. Clemson is at Duke. That'll be on ESPN. That's on Monday, September the 4th. Duke's offense is really good this season. Clemson's defense has gotten its stuff back together, but there's questions with both teams. Number one, Clemson's offense, we don't know. Duke's defense, oh, we don't know. So this could be a really interesting battle and early in the season. So don't overlook this game.
Definitely. And just you talk about new offensive coordinator at Clemson, and we got a lot, they're going to really revamp that offense, but it's the first game. How much, can they, will they have installed in week one? And, Duke, obviously, Riley Leonard is among the best quarterbacks in the league. He's not the best quarterback, but he's probably second tier quarterback in the league. Going up against this Clemson defense, which should still be really good this year. The thing about Duke, I would concern about defense is they had a little bit of turnover luck last year, and that turnover luck's not necessarily repeatable. So if they win this game, they're going to need turnovers, but they're also going to need to convert on offense. And I'm wondering also if they have the skill position players to do that. And obviously, as Jim mentioned a little bit ago, we'll get into our football previews here soon to find all that out.
Coming up on Saturday, September 9th, there's a slew of games here. Notre Dame at NC State, that's a nooner on ABC. James Madison at Virginia, that's an in-state rivalry that I think ought to be played on a regular basis. A lot of people won't agree with me there, but they're right across the mountain from each other. That's the type of thing that can fill a stadium in a heartbeat. James Madison has proven itself to be very competitive. They've, at one point defeated Virginia Tech. They were very highly ranked in in the play that they were in prior to moving forward into the FBS. Um, this could be a really challenging game. Obviously for Virginia, I don't know where
Yeah.
JMU stands at this moment. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
talk to somebody that knows more.
Yeah. And you can argue JMU's been the best football program in the Commonwealth the past couple of years. Maybe you can say Liberty, but JMU, won some national championships in football on the FCS level, moved up and had a really strong first season last season. And this being Virginia's first home game since the tragedy. Again, I mentioned the emotion. I think it's going to be even more emotional. Would not surprise me if Virginia won that game, but right now, but it's going to be no give me. You're right about that, Jim.
Another game, Texas A&M at Miami. That's on ABC. That's got a lot of
Oh man.
potential.
Yeah,
Uh,
a lot of potential, but remember last year, Texas A&M blew them out, and Miami's, going to have a new offensive coordinator as well. I'm curious to see if that change in offense is going to help Tyler Van Dyke, you go back towards his 2021 self. A&M, we know they are very methodical on offense, and they have a great defense. So this is going to be a great slugfest matchup.
Next game, it's on ACC Network. Appalachian State at North Carolina. It's always a battle. Appalachian State, Appy State is just a thorn in everybody's side. They're a good football program, and this is one of these games where North Carolina. And I think they know this. You can't take anything for granted when you play them.
Definitely. And we've seen App State, be a thorn in some teams' sides. Remember last year when these two teams played, it was a missed 2-point conversion that could have, I think, given App State the win. And I remember the score, something like 63-61 or something like that. I don't remember the score, but it was really, really high. And, App State's a pretty solid team, and you cannot take them lightly.
It's going to be fun to watch that game. Also, Southern Miss at Florida State. Now, typically, I wouldn't say that this is just one of those sneaky games. So
letdown spot.
Keep an eye on that game. We won't get into that. Cincinnati at Pitt. Now, I think this is a great matchup. I don't know where Cincinnati stands at this moment, but Cincinnati's been growing. The Bearcats have developed a heck of a program there. Pittsburgh isn't as strong this year as they have been in the past. So there might be some parity here. And they're not too far away from each other. So they're going to be filling the stadium. This is a really good game potential. So
yeah, definitely. I agree. Cincy now, by the time this game kicks off, will be part of the Big 12. Pitt will have, a new quarterback again, Phil Dracovic, assuming he stays healthy. But they continue to be, load up on defense. So we'll see if they can get the offense going in that game, because that's going to be a tall test for them.
Throwing this game in here because it is it's a rivalry game. It's always been a rivalry game. Virginia and North Carolina have always been a rivalry. They've been playing each other for 100+ years. These two teams don't particularly like each other. They're very competitive against one another. ACC, here we go, Virginia and Maryland. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know where Maryland is this coming season. I don't know where Virginia is, but nonetheless, I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be on FS1, so hopefully
rekindling an old ACC rivalry. And like you said, these two fan bases do not like each other,
and it's just for fun. It's fun from that standpoint. I think those are the types of rivalries that we should have more of. The Pitt and West Virginias, the Virginias and Maryland, stuff that's more regional. Those games really generate a lot of interest, get people in the seats. Here's another game on September the 16th, Louisville and Indiana in Indianapolis. That's going to be a fun game. We'll see how they perform early on in the season before we make any judgments here. But this could be a very evenly matched game. So
yeah, definitely. We'll see what Indiana is. I really don't know much about them at this point, but I would definitely lean Louisville in this game. But in this game being played in India, I wonder if it's being played at Lucas Oil. I don't have that in front of me, but I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, Minnesota at North Carolina.
Yeah, game this one that? In Chapel Hill this season. I believe they're doing a home and home. The other game being in Minneapolis, then I'll try to go to that one if I can make it happen. The Gophers, obviously I know a little bit about the team being here in the Twin Cities. This is a team that they're going to have a new quarterback this year after Tanner Morgan was in there since the late 1990s. I believe he was their starting quarterback. I think right around the time I graduated high school, he started as quarterback for the Gophers. But
20
no,
years.
they're actually going to have a little bit of a transition on offense. They lost some good talent. Carolina, will see if they have a new offensive coordinator. How much does that affect Drake May, who is getting a lot of hype as a top 5 pick in the next draft? Defense needs to really get its act together. They have struggled the past few years. They really need to figure something out. Otherwise, the Gophers are going to run right over them.
Yeah. Yeah, and they will run it right over you. Northwestern to Duke is always a good game, so we'll keep an eye on that. Virginia Tech at Rutgers. I'm making the assumption that Tech's going to be a better team this year. I can't help but think they've got to be.
Yeah, I have no idea what to think of Tech this year. I still don't love their quarterback play, but the skill positions are really going to make a decision. I don't think Rutgers is going to be that great either. So
Yeah.
I would say this game is definitely winnable for the Hokies.
So that should be fun to watch. Georgia Tech at Mississippi.
Yeah, at Ole Miss. Yeah, good luck. But
Well,
hey, we'll see.
yeah, you never know. This is one of these, surprise, bit you. Pitt at West Virginia, which you mentioned a few moments ago. I love that backyard brawl. I hope they continue this. This
Yeah,
is
how much
great,
fun was that game last season?
just awesome.
Just it's how that was how the season kicked off, was that just one of the most electric crowds I had seen. We had friend of the show Corey Crucian on right after that talking about it. And I think his ears were still ringing a few days later. And
Yeah,
this
you're
game being
right.
in Morgantown, I think the atmosphere will be just as electric.
Yeah, the Morgantown crowd is tough too.
Mm-hmm.
Telling you,
No doubt.
that's like walking into a Philadelphia Eagles game and being in the opponent. You might get out of there alive. Who knows?
And some Vikings fans cases, knowing some of them, that is a questionable feat.
Very. Um, Also, some other games that are coming up here. There's a couple I've got marked here, but they're more for myself, so I'm not going to share those. But Louisville at NC State on the 29th of September, I think has got a just awesome potential for being a slugfest.
Oh, no doubt, especially if NC State's offense is going by then. Remember, they're running back the 2021 Virginia offense with Robert and I at OC, Garrett Touche as O-line coach, Brennan Armstrong at quarterback. We'll get into it, down the road with the skill positions, because obviously we know how critical that is to that offense, and if they have the ability to do that this year.
We've got a couple other games that are, I've marked off here that I thought were going to be interesting. Syracuse at Tech, Wake Forest at Duke, Boston College at Syracuse. I think these are all going to be excellent games to watch, especially if you're a fan of either one of those teams. On Saturday, November 4th, now this is where we get into really a potential, just a barn burner. And I think every time these two teams meet, it's nothing but good for the fan bases of both. Notre Dame at Clemson. That's going to be on ABC, and they haven't determined the time yet because it will truly depend on where both of these teams are ranked at that point in the season. If they're, if they're ranked high, both of these teams, it will end up being the game of the week for ABC.
And Clemson is going to be out for revenge after last year.
Oh yeah, you bet. They'll be looking for some blood in the water there. The ACC football championship game will be on ABC, and that is Saturday, December the 2nd. To hear some of the bowl games that we can anticipate. A lot of these you're familiar with. There's only one change. There's actually two changes here, but one of them, two. It's the first is Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl on December 22nd. That will be on ESPN, or depending on how things work out and what the records are, it could be the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl, which will be on the 23rd on ABC. So the ACC, I don't know if this is going to be an either or maybe both, depending on how other conferences do.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say maybe it's a situation where if more ACC teams are bowl eligible, then they might get both.
And they did very well last year, so it's very possible. The Military Bowl is December 27th. Duke's Mayo Bowl is the 27th as well. Both of those games are on ESPN. Speaking of ESPN, on the 28th, it's the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. And then also on the 28th on ESPN, the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. So now here's the change. The formerly known as the Cheez-It Bowl is now the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And that's on December 28th. That's on ESPN. On the 29th on ESPN, it's the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. On the 29th on CBS, Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. On the 30th on ESPN, Capital One Orange Bowl, which is basically the pinnacle game for the ACC. And that is essentially the team that is runner up in the overall.
Basically, yep.
Yeah. And then on January 1st on ESPN2, the ReliaQuest Bowl, and the final, which is not, they don't have this marked down as what date and what time or even what network yet, but the SDCCU Holiday Bowl, which is a fairly new bowl for the ACC, that is out in San Diego. It's put on by the San Diego Credit Union. And they've had kind of a rough start because I think they kind of got started about the same time that COVID hit. And so they're trying to find their way through the melee there to claim ground and claim a network and the whole 9 yards. So
I think they used to sponsor a different bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like the Poinsettia Bowl or something like that.
Yeah. I think it was called the Poinsettia Bowl, something like that.
But now they moved their sponsorship to the Holiday Bowl. So I don't know what became of the Poinsettia Bowl. We've it's probably like 3 bowls ago now.
Yeah. And too many people had arguments over whether to call it poinsettia or poinsettia. And so they said, no, we're not going to be in the middle of that. We'll just call it Holiday Bowl. That was a stretch. Okay. I admit it. Anyway, as we look at a lot of sports that's going on across the ACC and also affecting some of the NCAA, a lot of great action going on, and I encourage you to support, as always, the teams across the Atlantic Coast Conference. Make sure that you watch men and women's sports on TV and wherever you can get a hold of stuff. There's some great stuff out there that you don't want to miss. Because sooner or later, what happens is then you're like me. You're going through YouTube at 1 o'clock in the morning, and there comes up a clip of a game or something that you missed, and you go, I could have watched that. So yeah, watch it all. It's all good. It's right there. It's waiting for you. Take advantage of it. Hey, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. You can go to our website at accnation.net and subscribe. You just scroll down about 3/4 of the way. And we have like a million ways that you can subscribe to our podcast. That's right.
1 million ways.
Oh man. Whew. Boy, we're starting to show our age here, definitely. Anyway, so like I said, we got a million ways to subscribe. Well, you threw me off there, Will.
I'm not sorry.
No, I didn't think so. Not at all. Also, there's several ways that you can also listen to us on streaming radio, and there's different content sometimes on the streaming radio side of things. So you might want to check that out, because sometimes we'll have interviews that we don't have on our podcast over on streaming radio and vice versa. So the other thing is YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. If you have comments, be sure to leave them below. doing, doing, and, just punch the subscribe button, whatever. Something.
It's not really a punch. That's more like a tap.
Tap. Okay. Tap the subscribe button.
Punch that subscribe button.
And, give us a thumbs up on the videos that you're watching. We appreciate it. And hope that you'll keep watching, listening. A lot of great action. As I said, Will and I are going to be getting into the football previews hot and heavy here. And I mean, like crazy over the next couple of weeks. And all the way up until the kickoff of ACC football, which is really getting closer than you would ever think.
We're under 100 days.
That's right. And I'm also looking forward to the NFL too. So I'm kind of excited. All right. Until next time, my friends, cheers.
Cool.